So what exactly are the Dallas Cowboys doing? Are the Dallas Cowboys falling behind because of their lack of moves in free agency? Or do the Dallas Cowboys have a good enough roster that they don't have to make any moves? They can just stand pat, just say, you know what? We like what we see here. We're going to try and win. Let's go ahead and listen to what ESPN Get Up has to say about this.
So the Eagles had a busy day. The Cowboys were literally the only team to do nothing. Our buddy Tad Prescott, Dak's brother, tweeted, so if it wasn't clear already, it is now. The Eagles have the best front office in the NFL. Hashtag, how about them Cowboys?
So I will say I'm kind of surprised that Dallas didn't make a move. I really thought Derrick Henry was going to be the addition. Once Tony Pollard left, I was thinking, okay, this kind of opens the door for that next Ezekiel Elliott. Dallas is one of those teams that they're the best version of themselves when they can effectively run the football. We all know what Dallas has. We all know Dallas has a great offensive line. We know they want to run the football and then throw off of that run. That's it. Dallas is a very simple offense. They're very simple schematic. So when they got rid of Tony Pollard, who had a disappointing season last year, when they got rid of him, to me, it was like, okay, makes perfect sense now. Go get your Derrick Henry. Let him be the bell cow. Dallas kind of wants to do the same thing Tennessee did with Derrick Henry, just a better version of it. So do that. When they didn't do that, and then you see Philadelphia go and get Saquon Barkley, which, controversial yet brave, I don't think is that big of a deal, which we'll talk about in this video. But if I was a Cowboys fan after the embarrassment at the hands of Green Bay in the playoffs, I'd be kind of furious that we were just saying, you know what, let's run it back.
Our own beloved former Cowboy Marcus Spears just tweeted all in with all these laughing emojis. Let's start with this. I've heard a lot of people say the Eagles won the division yesterday. Agree or disagree?
I'm not going
to disagree. But not because of, I disagree that Saquon Barkley makes them the favorites. I disagree that they won this is a longing look right here. I mean, it's like I'm watching The Notebook or something. I mean, this is as hard of eye contact I have ever seen. I mean, this is Kate Winslet, Leo DiCaprio. This is, Ryan Gosling. And boom! I thought I could pull it off. I thought I had the actress. I cannot think of the actress off the top of my head. It's from The Notebook. It's gonna kill me. It'll come to me at some point during this video. That's how my brain works. But I can't get over the eye contact made here. Let me say this. This is how I look at the Eagles with Saquon. Anytime a team is already good at something and then they just swap good for good, but the second good, the new good, has a like big time name or is a superstar, like just media value, like superstar name, I don't put too much stock into that. And here's the bottom line, and you won't hear anybody else say this. You certainly won't hear this on ESPN or Fox Sports or any of these like big sports media stations. But I think DeAndre Swift is better than Saquon Barkley for what the Eagles want to do. I mean, you look at DeAndre Swift, better rusher than Saquon. And you could argue that Saquon was running in a Rachel McAdams. I knew it. Damn. I knew it would come to me. Damn it, man. You could argue Saquon's running on a worse offensive line for sure. You could argue all that stuff, but just strictly the numbers, just strictly what I'm looking at, DeAndre Swift's probably better. And you want to know why? Because he's healthier. DeAndre Swift's going to play. Saquon, you have to be concerned with not only is the production similar, maybe worse, but is he going to play? Is he going to be able to play every game? Is he going to be able to play 16 games? Or is he going to play 10 games? And would I rather have Saquon for 10 or DeAndre Swift for the entire season or 15 to 16 games? I would say DeAndre Swift for 15, 16 games. The Eagles already do what Saquon does well. That's not why the Eagles struggled last year. The Eagles struggled last year because of their defense. So, it's almost like, this is a bad example, but it's like if you took if you took, let's pretend Tom Brady was still playing in the NFL. If you traded Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and all of a sudden you were like, oh my God, the Buccaneers got Patrick Mahomes. Are they Super Bowl favorites? It's like, well, they already had Tom Brady. At that point, there's a marginal bump, if a bump at all. When Brady was with the Buccaneers, that's why they were good. That was the only good thing they had. So even though you may get a better player, you may get a better name or whatever, that shouldn't be the reason your title odds or your division odds or whatever is boosted. So I need more from the Eagles than just Saquon for me to say that they're the NFC East favorite. Here's another controversial yet brave statement. I think the Devin White signing is a bigger signing / better signing for the Eagles than the Saquon signing.
To go that far, the Eagles still have to fix their secondary, which was absolutely awful last year.
That's right.
You're talking about a secondary that gave up the second most passing yards, the second most passing touchdowns, and allowed the third worst QBR of anybody in football. So until they get that part of it figured out, I think we got to pump the brakes on what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing.
Said.
I like it, but they still got a lot more work to do this offseason to get back to the big game where we saw them in 2022.
Dan, right now, I mean, the Eagles have added what they've added. The Cowboys, as of this point, have not added anything. How do you see it?
Well, it's March 12th, so who's won the division is still a long way away from being answerable. But I do know this. Philadelphia has to replace the best center in football in the last 10 years. Cam Jurgens is going to step into that role. Saquon Barkley is going to be a tremendous impact for this football team. I agree with Chris that they have to continue to build the back end of their defense. And this is a team that, Greeny, yesterday before Saquon, we thought, yeah, they got a chance to win the division. And now,
I don't want to belabor the point, but again, with the Saquon thing, like, he's going to make a tremendous impact. He's going to do all this. He's going to uplift the Eagles. How good would he have to be? What would Saquon have to do to truly make that tremendous impact, that tremendous difference for this team? That's the question. What would he have to do? Because he would have to be way better than DeAndre Swift was last year. Because if he's just what DeAndre Swift was, if he's the exact same, then that's not a tremendous impact. That's just the same thing. So he's got to be markedly better than DeAndre Swift, which means he's for sure going to have to play every game of the season. He's going to have to be, I'll tell you right now, he will have to be an MVP candidate if he's going to have a quote-unquote tremendous impact, a McCaffrey-level impact on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Now they have a better chance to do that. I think for me, Greeny, the big takeaway when it comes to Philadelphia and Saquon and all that is how the Cowboys did nothing. That's my big takeaway, Greeny. The Cowboys didn't. The Cowboys are down like 4 or 5 starters, and I know they're good at roster building. They don't have a left tackle. They don't have a center. They don't have a tailback. They don't have an.
Yeah, the problem with the Cowboys is that they had like I said earlier, they have a very easy plan, but their best part of their team for the last couple of years, their offensive line, is kind of falling apart, and the offensive line is kind of losing players, all over the place. They don't have a running back. Like, it's not as good as it seems back there. Like, the idea of Dallas sounds cool. Like, the idea of, we're just going to run the football, we're going to do this, play behind a good offensive line, we're going to have a good defense. But then it's like, well, you lost your defensive coordinator, who I would assume is a big reason why the defense was so good. You do not have a running back, and your offensive line is losing pieces left and right. So things kind of look bad for Dallas, and Dallas does need to add. Dallas does need to get in the mix. I'm not saying they should have went and signed Joe Mixon or Devin Singletary or whatever, but they should have. I'm surprised they didn't make a run at Derrick Henry, and maybe they did, but I'm shocked they're not more active. I mean, you can even throw Dak Prescott in there, where it's like, Dak Prescott, we saw how good Dallas was last year, and look where it got him. It got him a very embarrassing loss to Green Bay. So are we so sure that Dallas is just fine under this leadership of Dak Prescott and then the current team that they have, like the Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott situation? Are we sure that the Super Bowl window is even open for Dallas? I'm not so sure. I'm not sure Dallas is better than Atlanta right now. Like, if I had my NFC pecking order, I don't think I'd have the Cowboys over Atlanta. I don't even know if I'd have them over Green Bay.
An inside linebacker. Like, the Eagles definitely jumped the Cowboys yesterday when it came to chances to win the division. Still some time left, but the Cowboys in standing pat is my big shocker outside of Saquon going to Philly.
Yeah, if you missed it, Tony Pollard yesterday signing in Tennessee.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I agree with what Chris said. Like, I still don't like Philly's back end, but their problems are a lot less than what Dallas has, as Dano just alluded to. But
yeah, I agree with that.
If I'm Dak Prescott and I want to get a massive new deal, I'm not having my relative call them out. And,
he's got to get Tad Prescott involved. I think Tad has been pretty vocal Dak's entire career.
Ultra problem. Like, I have sat in that seat for over 20 years. Like, I don't be like, oh, okay, you know what, you're right. Let me give you your deal now. His brother's sitting on a $60 million cap number. You don't think that's one of the reasons right now they're not doing anything? So if I'm Dak Prescott, I'm going to show leadership, lead your family first and your team second, and then get in a room with the Dallas Cowboys and get a deal done long term, lower your cap number, and then go improve your team. So to me, like we keep talking about, like, why can't they win? That's a good reason why. You don't see other teams tweeting those things, and trust me, there are a lot of problems out there.
Well, look, and
I mean, Dak Prescott is, I'm not going to say he's the problem, but Dak Prescott is definitely a question mark right now with Dallas. Big contract, not exactly the results you want, and the Dallas's success is tied to Dak's success. If Dak cannot drag them to playoff success or any of that, it doesn't really matter who the tailback is. It doesn't really matter who is on the offensive line. So, and the only way you can believe Dallas's Super Bowl window is open is if you believe Dak Prescott can lead a team to a Super Bowl. I'm not so sure that I could believe that.
you wouldn't see any other members of the Cowboys have their family members, tweeting nasty things about anybody or anything like that. Wait, what am I being told here? Oh, they all do that? And they aim them directly at Dak Prescott? I think Tad has shown remarkable restraint, to be completely honest with you, to go do a bunch of things.
That's good.
And then the truth is, they never actually do that, do they?
Never do. I mean,
Dallas isn't really the team that does this. They are more of that roster building the old-fashioned way. So it shouldn't be that surprising, I guess. I guess the reason it is surprising or was surprising in this situation was that they had a glaring, obvious need. Once Tony Pollard was gone and Ezekiel Elliott has not been there, obviously, they do need that tailback. They do need that running back. Everyone knows this is what Dallas does. Then you see on the flip side, you see basically every running back in the NFL available, and Dallas says, you know what, we're good. We don't want Austin Eckler. We don't want Derrick Henry. We don't want Saquon. We don't want any of these, Joe Mixon. We don't want any of these players. We don't want DeAndre Swift. Passing up all those players is, I think, why people are so surprised, because it seems like it's the easiest answer in the world. The easiest answer to their problem was Derrick Henry. Go get him. He's available. Whatever it was, 2 years, $20-something million. There it is. What's so hard about that? So, especially when you still have the Dallas Cowboys with the power that they wield with their name and all that, Jerry Jones and all, the idea that they're moving and shaking, they're always good, they're America's team. To see them quiet in this situation where seemingly everything was available to them, that is kind of a shocking move.
I mean, I hate to sit here and say I told you so, but the Cowboys aren't going to do anything in free agency on the first day. They don't believe in it. They believe that the right way to build their roster is draft, develop, and retain your own guys. Their priorities this offseason are seeing if they can get contracts done with CeeDee Lamb, maybe Dak Prescott, maybe Micah Parsons. So they'll bring guys in. They're not going to play with only 3 guys on the offensive line. They're just going to wait until their prices are what they want them to be. They were interested in Zach Moss, the running back signed with Cincinnati. He got about $4 million a year from Cincinnati. That was too rich for their blood, right? So
$4 million.
Yeah, so I mean, if that's just how they do it, if that's what they believe in, if that's their strategy, okay. And you can't fault them for that if they have a philosophy and they're sticking to it. Okay, I can respect that for sure. But I mean, that's some serious discipline. That's some serious discipline to turn your nose up at the Derrick Henrys of the world because you're thinking we can get more value out of a 1 year, $3 million or a $3 million per year type player. So I guess kudos to them for sticking with what they believe gives them the best roster, but it's not very fun visually for a Cowboys fan.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be expecting them to bring in Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry was the next place we were going to go. That's who everybody wants them to sign.
It's just not how they operate. I think if Derrick Henry comes into their price range, he makes a lot of sense for them, but I don't think they'll stretch for him. They will, left tackle.
So this is obviously was recorded before he signed with the Ravens.
Center, I mean, these are priority items. Run stoppers on defense, I think these are places where they will look, and I'm sure they have guys in mind. But if we followed the Cowboys over the last half decade plus, we know that yesterday was not going to be a big day.
Dan, go ahead. Dan.
Yeah, Graz just used the word priority. That's like my issue. Those are priority positions that they bargain hunt for right now. And that's where if you're a Cowboys fan, well, they build good rosters. They've won 12 games 3 years in a row. You're going to give Dak Prescott a gajillion bucks in an extension more than likely, and 40% of your offensive line is not coming back. So we're talking about potentially.
I mean, Dallas does have a good argument against what they're talking about, right? Dallas does have the argument of like, look at our team, look at our roster. We have a really good roster. We've built this roster. What we're doing works. We just have to get the finishing touches. We have to get the finishing pieces to get us over the hump to where we can have playoff success. But as far as building the roster, you do have to kind of sit back and agree, like, okay, yeah, Dallas is okay. Maybe there is something to this. Maybe they do know what they're doing. Maybe they do know what they're doing in the draft and developing these players and retaining their players. Like maybe we should give them. We keep talking about the running backs, but maybe Dallas has some kind of a plan for the running back position in the draft, and that's where they're going to go. So, if this time next year we're talking about, or in 6 months or 8 months or whatever, we're talking about Dallas as the offensive rookie of the year as their running back, and he's on a rookie deal, and then all of a sudden it makes sense. It makes sense why they didn't go reach for whoever in free agency. So free agency is a fun talking point, but you do kind of have to give these teams at least until the draft, because we're sitting here like, why isn't Dallas drafting these players? Why aren't they doing this? Again, if they take a running back that they're obviously going to start, and he's obviously going to be the starting running back come day one, if they draft that guy, then it makes perfect sense why they didn't go sign somebody. So
at least putting that huge extended quarterback financially, bond an offensive line that is relatively unproven. We'll see if Tyler Smith kicks out to left tackle, but they don't have a left tackle. They don't have a center. They don't have a back. They don't have a run-stopping defensive tackle. They don't have an inside linebacker. At some point, the Cowboys have to not bargain hunt.
No, understood, and that's fair. But to the point about the offensive line, last year's offensive line in Dallas could not block for the run. They feel like they're going to upgrade at some of those positions in terms of that, and that will help the protection too. So it's not that they don't have a plan. It's just that the general public who's hungry for free.
Yeah, it's actually the opposite. They have a plan, but the general public doesn't want them to do their plan. That's basically what they're saying, is that Dallas absolutely does have a plan here, but the plan is not go sign these big-name free agents.
The agent news doesn't like their plan.
But 31 other teams had a better plan or different
Understood,
plan.
But they don't win 12 games every year.
Well, we don't.
Well, that's not fair either. I mean, he's basically saying that. I think what Dan was trying to say is that the Super Bowl winning team has a better plan, but they also have Patrick Mahomes. Not every single team is signing like crazy in free agency. I mean, some teams are, but not every single team is making these enormous splashes and Dallas is the only team that's not.
I don't know if it's a better plan. I mean, the proof will happen on the football field this fall. But, I mean, the issues that Dan outlined, there are opportunities for the Dallas Cowboys to improve them. DJ Reader is still out there. Eric Armstead's out there. Bobby Wagner's out there. Those are guys that are going to come in on lesser deals that could fortify the middle of your defense. Tyler Smith kicking out the left tackle. But I do want to go back to something that Mike Tannenbaum said about the Philadelphia Eagles relative to the Dallas Cowboys. He said the Cowboys have a culture problem. Are we sure that the Philadelphia Eagles don't have a culture problem?
No, we're not.
Are we sure? I mean, they lost 6 of the final 7 games, including getting embarrassed in the postseason. And now...
Well, I think culture-wise, the Eagles certainly had a big shift. I mean, they lost both coordinators after their Super Bowl run. There was the whole Patricia defensive coordinator situation last year at a certain point. So, I mean, there was definitely some influx of authority, I guess you could say. And then, obviously, Jalen Hurts getting hurt and him not playing well down the stretch, all that. And, again, the defense was as bad as it was. So, I don't know if there's a culture problem, but last year was definitely some growing pains for the Eagles.
What compounds that issue is the leadership vacuum that now exists in that locker room because you've lost Jason Kelce, because you've lost Fletcher Cox. I mean, I don't know that there is a head coach quarterback tandem that is going to be under more pressure this season
I agree with that.
Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. But
I agree with that. I mean, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, both of their legacies, both of how they're viewed in Philadelphia. I mean, we could be a year away from Sirianni being fired and Jalen Hurts being under the hot seat of, is he actually a good quarterback? That's just how the NFL works, and especially how sports work in Philly.
I get everybody's focused on Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy. I don't know that the guys in Philadelphia aren't under more pressure.
But Chris, here's the difference. I'm sure that Jalen...
I agree there. I think Sirianni and Hurts are under more pressure than McCarthy and Prescott.
Hurts had some bumps in the road when he did his massive extension. There's no deal in the history of the NFL that always just went smoothly, especially when we're talking about the types of money we are. But nobody.
There are bumps in the road, and then there are 20 turnovers last year.
I understand that, but my point is Jalen Hurts didn't do anything to amplify the noise. And here's my problem with the Cowboys, Greeny, fundamentally. Dak Prescott's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I've been a huge believer in him. He will get a deal at some point. Why are they waiting? They're sitting on a $60 million cap number. It's going to get done in July. Why not get in a room at the Combine and say, guess what? Todd France, your agent, you are not getting off this bus until we get a deal done. Lower the cap number to give ourselves some flexibility.
Why are you making the Cowboys could press a button and extend Dak Prescott, they would do it. But same thing happened, whatever it was, 3-4 years ago. It takes two to tango, and Dak Prescott has to want to do the deal too. To entirely blame the team on this, I'm not defending them in all cases, but the fact of the matter is Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys are equally to blame for the lack of extension.
I got one.
Anytime anyone says I'm not defending them, more than likely they are in fact defending them. Ladies and gentlemen, go down below. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think the Dallas Cowboys, is it surprising they didn't do anything in free agency? Should they have done something in free agency? And do you think Saquon and the Eagles won them the NFC East? Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.